All right, hello friends. Welcome back to the Nexus podcast. This is where we talk about connected buildings and the playbooks that are behind them. This is kind of a special episode. This is not targeted at a single, type of building owner. This is targeted at our whole entire community. Anyone who has attended our events or plans to attend our events in the future. Today, we're going to dig into the evolution of how we at Nexus Labs choose presentations at our events, how we curate that process. And this matters for all of you because if you've listened to anything that we've produced, we really strive hard to have the most educational presentations possible. And we want to keep things merit based and we want to keep things not pay to play. That's kind of our philosophy. So we're going to dig into that. A quick note, if you're trying to stay on top of the space and not wade through all the vendor noise, we write a newsletter every week, every other week called the Connected Buildings Briefing. If you haven't signed up, please do sign up. It's right on the front of our homepage. It's a 5-minute breakdown of what's worth paying attention to. We have over 8,000 subscribers who read it. We'll also tag it in the show notes so you can find it there as well. My name is Brad Bonavita. I'm the head of product at Nexus Labs, and I am here with my two favorite coworkers, James Dice and Rosie, who is back from maternity leave. Welcome back, Rosie. The audience missed you.
Yes, I bet they did. Hi, everyone. Good to be back. I missed my two favorite people as well, and everyone that's listening.
All of our other employees are going to be so pissed
They're
that
pissed right
they
now.
weren't named in the favorites.
I know. So we're going to dive into just kind of this timeline of how we've always thought about presentations at Nexus Labs, the arc, and where we're at today. So the call to action, definitely check out Nexus Cast and NexusCon. Those are our two types of events. We've got these virtual events, a series that happens throughout the year called Nexus Cast. Those go on different subjects. We have our condition-based maintenance Nexus Cast coming up on April 15th. So you can register for that. And then, of course, NexusCon is our big in-person event that's happening October 5th through 7th in Detroit this year. So with that, let's get into it. You guys, I always like preface, you guys kind of started this journey before I got involved because you guys knew each other before. You started Nexus before I came here. So I'll leave it to James, maybe you start, or Rosie, jump in if you want. Tell me about this arc of, going to events and figuring out what those were like and, kind of brainstorming how you wanted our events to be different.
Well, I think all good companies get started by complaining, right? You complain about something that happens in your life and you start a company to fix it. I think from the standpoint of our events, I mean, that's what it was. Rosie and I met at a Smart Buildings conference and their first conversation was complaining about it. I'm pretty sure, Rosie.
Yeah.
And I think in terms of this conversation, we were most likely complaining about how the educational side of the conference was a joke. Like it was an afterthought. And when I say it's a joke, I mean like everyone is there and they've just decided that like half the people don't even go into the session rooms because they're there to network with their, they're there to chat with their network. They're there to maybe, walk the expo floor sometimes, but it's almost like the educational side of the conference at a lot of the conferences in our industry is a little bit of like a charade situation. Like it's not, they don't really take it seriously. Like, and I think these conferences have sort of taught the attendees that they're not going to learn anything that they can actually apply. And so they've just over years, I think people are happy to speak because it's a fun thing to do and get up on stage and all of that, but it's not necessarily like they're going to learn anything. And the standard format, right, is a 5-person panel, usually about 4 sponsors that paid to have that speaking slot as part of their sponsor package. And then you throw up a building owner to give some sort of credibility to that panel. And you never, like, they just spend 45 minutes like skimming along the surface and never getting into anything. And so that's the sort of complaining about that is sort of why and where we started with creating our own events.
Yeah. So we've done 2 NexusCons now. NexusCon 2024 was the first, and we did 2025. And I came in and started helping plan at the beginning of that first one. And the message from both of you was like very strong around getting those building owners onto the stage because they're such a validating factor to the stories that have been told. So anyone who has applied or talked to us about our events knows how building owner first we are intentionally because of the validation that that brings to the presentation. It's not just somebody whose incentive is to, sell something by getting on stage, but it's someone who's using this process or technology or playbook to get something done. So we emphasize heavily on the building owners. We actually had over 80% of our presentations at NexusCon 2025 were building owner led, which was pretty cool.
And we want it to feel, when we set out to design our sessions, we've done a lot of work designing our sessions, right? We talk a lot about like what is the perfect session for creating change in our industry. And we really wanted at the beginning with NexusCon and all of our events to feel like the educational side is a peer-to-peer sharing session, like a working session. Like they all are grouped by their jobs in the different tracks. So they're sitting there with their actual peers. These people are in other organizations, but in the same department as you. Share what you've learned with them, and they can share what they've learned with you. And it's like real time feedback from what everyone did in the last year. Basically, is the idea.
Yeah, I want to bring up two examples anonymously that came from NexusCon 2025. So we have these recordings. If you're a pro member, you can watch all of NexusCon 2025, but we watch them too. Like we use this to try to get better and to learn from them. And the two examples that I have is number one is a case study that was building owner led that, I was really excited for when the event came. But when I watched that case study, I just realized that it was very not applicable to the audience. Like it was kind of cool, but like if you watched that and you were there to learn, you don't really have any takeaways. It was more of like a history lesson and like, oh, that's interesting, but I'm not going to change the way I operate my buildings on it. And the second one is one of the ones that wasn't the 80% building owner led. It was one that was part of the minority 20% that was actually a technology vendor and a service provider up on stage. And as helping build the agenda, I was a little bit concerned, like, hopefully this isn't just a sales pitch. And it was such a beautiful, like, explanation of how to get over something that everybody faces in their buildings. And like everybody in the entire audience has had their hands raised for like follow-ups
awesome.
and stuff. So it was a little bit of a head scratcher because it was like, those are two counter examples to what we anticipated.
I feel like if you're listening and you want to know, because I want to know what presentation you're talking about as well. I'm not sure which one it is. If you're listening and you want to know, maybe if you email Brad, he'll tell you. What do you think, Brad?
Yeah,
maybe.
I'll tell him about the positive one. I don't know if I'll
of
tell him
course,
about the one
yeah,
bad.
definitely.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I also had a presentation. Like I first want to say this is really hard. Like the three of us worked and do work, and we're about to start the work that goes into building the agenda for 2026. It's really, really hard. And Brad, you could talk about all the reasons why it's hard to do this the way we do. But I remember being, sitting in a presentation last year, and I was like, I'm looking around for things I could throw at the speakers because it just didn't match our vibe. I was like, do I throw my chair? Do I go unplug the AV equipment right now? I was like literally squirming in my chair. And I think if we started out from just like hating all the presentations at other conferences and then it's really hard to do it a new way and like teach our community how we want it, right, Brad? And I think if we look at where we were last year, like we're really proud of the overall agenda, but I think you and I are the ones that are watching these. We're still like, there's still like a 30% where we like want to get it to where we're proud of all of the sessions at the presentation conference.
Perfectly said. Very proud, but there's some humility. Like we want to continue to do better, and we're acknowledging the ways that we can, which I think is a good transition into like how we're thinking about it this year, and that change. So, James, can I put you on the spot? And we kind of invented this term. I think you invented this term, playbook accelerators. Like, could you just kind of
We're a team,
talk to us
Brad. We
about what
all
a
invented
playbook
it.
accelerator
His
is?
brain is our brain. It's okay.
Yeah, I mean, this, we've had so many conversations. It starts by like being there in person and saying like, well, what's off about this? Like, it's a little bit off. And then you watch a perfect presentation, like you said, and you're like, well, what are the differences between these two things? And I think it really goes back to sort of removing the stuff that is nice as a story, but it's not necessarily actionable. Like we don't like I think Brad, you like to talk about this. Like there's a lot of presentations that happen where they're like, here's our 15-year journey from 2012 to today, and it's like, okay, that's interesting, but like how is someone supposed to take that and do something with it? And so cutting that, like a lot of case studies, people think that they need to tell this really long story, and that's not necessarily true. Um, so that's it. And then the next stage I would say is like zeroing in on the operational transformation that a building owner needs to go through in order to run their buildings differently. That's actually the the concept of this playbook. I'm running this playbook so I can take our buildings from the way that we used to run them to this new way of running them that uses the technology, but it's not necessarily focused on the technology at all. It's an operational change. And so that's what we call this playbook. And then when you go on that operational change journey, you're going to run up against the same obstacles as everyone else is running up against, and that's where the obstacle comes in. And in order to accelerate that playbook, we're asking people to teach how to overcome that obstacle, which is the playbook accelerator. And so our vision would be you come to NexusCon or you come to NexusCast, and you're getting a quick overview of the transformation, the playbook that everyone's working on, right? But you're really hit with detailed presentations around these accelerators so that when you hit those obstacles in your buildings, you then have this very detailed explanation from somebody who's done that in the past, and you don't need to make the mistakes they made. You just follow this teaching, and like that's how we believe the industry will accelerate faster. And I really, my vision would be that we stop sort of we hold our educational sessions at our conferences in way more higher regard. We have higher expectations of them to actually be used in the buildings when people go back home.
Yeah. So I will give a real concrete example of that from NexusCon 2025. So throughout reviewing these, we're looking at one of the presentations from the LinkedIn team, and they were talking about their FDD rollout there. So in the case of their FDD rollout, that FDD is a tool in condition-based maintenance, which we talked about for 2.5 hours in our last podcast. So the playbook was condition-based maintenance and how LinkedIn was, incorporating that playbook into their buildings. But one portion of that presentation, the LinkedIn team really dove into how there was this obstacle that all of their contractors didn't do contracting that was based on condition-based maintenance. So they had to rewrite all their contracts and renegotiate them with all their external service providers so that they had KPIs like proactive work order completion and comfort scores. So I'm just bringing that out as an example of a playbook accelerator. You've got a playbook condition-based maintenance. You've got this obstacle that your external service contractors don't want to operate with your condition-based maintenance. It doesn't work with the contract you have with them. So here's how LinkedIn got around that obstacle in a way that you also could as a building owner. So we're really trying to hone in on like very specific teachings like that and getting people to those within our presentations.
And the idea here would be like, I think everyone's experienced this thing where they go to a conference and the same stuff is said over and over again. We hear that a lot. Like, we don't need to get into examples because I don't want to call anyone out, but we don't need to rehash what the playbook is or what a specific technology is or why we need a converged network. So our idea is all these events start building on themselves. And so these playbooks and all the playbook accelerators form a library on our website that people can go back and find basically the roadmap to smarter, more connected buildings. And then our events become the way that we start stacking on top of that existing library.
Yep.
Oh.
So logistically, how that's going to work in our events, NexusCast and NexusCon, is that we're focused on a specific playbook. In terms of NexusCast, it's usually about one playbook. At NexusCon, it's going to be about like 16 plus playbooks. And the session will start with that context building of like everything you need to know and understand about the playbook, the technologies involved, what are the definitions, what are the keywords, why do people run the playbook, like all of that upfront context. And then it's followed by these accelerators where people are teaching you about those obstacles that they got over. So you get the context up front, and then you get, call it 2 to 5 lessons about like, hi, I ran into this exact problem, and here's how I operationalized a workaround to make it happen, and you can do the same.
All of these playbooks require technology to enable them, right? And so when you're at our events, you know that there will be technology vendors that enable these playbooks on the demo stage throughout the whole event, and then you can go talk to them at their booths. So we have operational playbooks that are enabled by technology vendors on the demo stage show how they enable those playbooks. Yep. And then if you want to go talk further to them, their booth is there for you to go get a detailed demo, nerd out with them at their booth.
So in terms of folks that are listening to us, I want us to summarize it for them. Like, what does this mean for them? Like, if I am a technology vendor, what is now unlocked for me? Question mark. And then what does it look like for building owners and service providers?
Yeah, well, I mean, we were talking about this a little bit before we started recording, but it's a hierarchy. And I think the elephant in the room is like, you can get on stage without a building owner. That's not an absolute requirement.
Wow. It's a big deal, guys. This is a change for us.
The first piece in the hierarchy is that teaching that we're talking about, that accelerator, like an obstacle that you are teaching someone to get around. You've operationalized it, you've seen it operationalized. This is how you do it. Now, right next to that is building owner led or building owner supported, because that validation of like a customer or an end user talking about that obstacle is extremely powerful and still stands. But it's really about that teaching being at the core. And sometimes, technology vendors and service providers have seen this enough and they can teach, but we're not going to let it be a sales pitch. No way. Still going to avoid that. I think if you're like trying to figure out how to give a playbook accelerator as a technology vendor or service provider, ask yourself, is what you're teaching agnostic to your product? Like, it has to be able to apply even if someone isn't using your product. If they have to use your product, this is becoming a sales pitch, or maybe it's good content for the demo stage because you're describing this new feature that you have that no one else has. But if you're teaching somebody, it can't just apply to your product and service. It has to be applicable to anybody who is running into these, same problems running a playbook. Agree?
Totally.
The silence.
No, I mean, that was really well said, Brad.
Okay, good. What else?
So Brad, tell everyone what you're looking for from them, because by the time this comes out, they have a few weeks to submit their abstracts.
And where can they go to submit it? Like, what do I do?
Right. So we have all the, we talked about virtual events and in-person events. There's always NexusCast applications out there where you can submit to our virtual events. You can find those under our events on our homepage and go to any of the NexusCast events. But you guys are talking about NexusCon, our in-person event, the big annual conference. We have the deadline for submitting to speak at NexusCon is Friday, May 1st. So you have like exactly a month from when we're recording this to submit. And within that application, you can tell us about the playbook that you're trying to teach on, but you'll see within the application that it's like, what is the very specific obstacle within a playbook that you're addressing? And what are you teaching people about how to get around that obstacle? So it's not like, here's the case study of this giant portfolio of buildings and this story and everything that's happened. No. Zoom way in and imagine that your audience is going to have all the context they need to understand what condition-based maintenance or advanced supervisory control or device inventory management is. They're going to know that, and you're going to say, okay, everyone in the room's caught up. Now you can run into this problem. I have, or my customer has, or I've seen this happen a bunch of times, and this is exactly how you can get around that. And the more specific you are about what you're going to teach, by far the more likely it is that you're going to find yourself on stage.
Amazing.
Can you give one example from our next Nexus cast of what people are teaching?
Yeah, there's lots of examples. One that I will bring up is so it's condition-based maintenance. I feel like I've said that.
You have, like, if this was a drinking game podcast, we would have had a couple shots by now.
Mapped is going to be on stage. Jose de Castro, who is the chief technology officer at Mapped, and he's going to be very specifically teaching how you can have smart restrooms, so IoT sensors in your restrooms that are sensing all sorts of things that can happen in a restroom, and how you can integrate that smart restroom data into your CMMS so that you get actionable workflows out of it. So we're very, very zoomed in. We're not talking about like an IDL overall and how you incorporate that. We're not talking about how you implement IoT sensors across your building. We're talking about if you're trying to get sensors in your bathroom and utilize that data in your workflow, this is exactly the ways that you can connect that effectively and what to watch out for. So very much zoomed in.
And the obstacle is you have data over here, and then you have your all of your work orders over here. How do you take that data and do something that creates work orders?
I feel like there's I have one question. I'm going to put you guys on the spot really quick to maybe wrap this up. So I was just talking actually with a technology vendor yesterday who is going to be doing a presentation, and I was telling them this idea of the Playbook accelerators and really honing in, like, you can't do a sales pitch or we're going to kick you off stage. And they were asking about slides versus screen share of a platform, which I actually think is interesting given this new concept that we're bringing, because they know that at Nexus Labs events, we like real demos. We want to see the real thing live in person that's happening. But if you're a technology vendor or service provider on the stage and you're sharing a live platform, how do you make that technology or service agnostic when you're showing your own platform, but you're trying to teach a Playbook accelerator, right? Like, you're trying to show how someone can operationalize this, but you have to be very thoughtful in how you pull that apart from demonstrating your product. Any thoughts on that?
I think it's definitely possible. We definitely want to lean in the vibe of leaning towards action, like showing a platform is the ultimate action, right? Like, this is how you actually do it. And so I think that those vendors can definitely show their platform and just have to think of the way that they're speaking. This isn't when they're showing their platform to do a sales demo. They're showing their platform to just show the breadth of the technology and how it's being utilized. So yeah, they got to be thoughtful because we are going to kick them off stage. That's a real thing, guys. I don't know how we're going to do it in person because that seems a little intense, but through Nexus Cast, it's really easy. It's like poof.
Tomatoes.
That's easy.
We're going to throw tomatoes.
I'd love the audience's input on this. So let me just tell, this is like a sidebar, but basically what we're saying is if you are up on stage and you get really salesy, everyone's annoyed in the audience, right? Like, no one wants to, that's not the right forum.
Everyone's supposed to like fidget. And they look at us.
They look at us. They give us dirty looks. And nothing is wrong with that. In that, if you were at your booth doing that, that's awesome. And if you were on the demo stage showing us your new features, also not being salesy, but like showing us your new features and your platforms and whatever, that's really cool. But not in a session. Like, there's a place for everything. Anyways, so you're in a session that's happening. What do we do? That's been a big question for us because we have moderators and we try to empower them.
We need clear rules, and we need to like onboard everyone into the event.
I think all the attendees will have the power.
Yeah, all the attendees.
Yeah, whatever this thing is. Yeah. So
we haven't gotten to the point where it's like, I think people that have been with us for 5 years know when someone's off the vibes, right?
Totally.
But we haven't. The community has grown and changed, and it's like, how do we make it so that everybody knows the vibes? Mm-hmm. They don't just come in, be salesy,
and think it'll just
so
pass.
I think we need clear rules. And the first time we kick someone off stage, that will start to change things.
Totally. You know who does this
Yeah.
really well? And maybe I put this on him to figure out how to teach others. Andrew Rogers from Ace IoT. He was part of our last Nexus cast. And when he was doing his demo, I just felt like it was so collaborative and, you know, nothing about it was salesy. It was like I actually learned something even through his demo, and it was just awesome. So shout out to him. And maybe we can put this on him.
Well, I think as far as the like pulling up a live platform in your session, I think makes sense as long as it's in context of the workflow transformation that needs to happen. Like
Right.
if showing the platform helps people understand and make it more real, that you did this thing that then enables the work orders to like, if that helps show the workflow transformation and show the acceleration, then yeah. But is it a full demo? I remember in the NexusCon 2024, someone like turned their case study, I'm using air quotes here, into a full demo, and we're sitting there like, I'm gonna murder you. You know what I
I
mean?
just sighed without even noticing because it's still there. Like I'm like
Yeah.
brought back to that
You
moment.
can feel it.
Yeah.
You can feel it.
And then we were like, Brad,
So
did you approve this? And Brad was like, no.
that's the worst, right? Because like things sneak through where we really think we know what's going to happen on stage, and then something else happens on stage. But
And you
anyway,
could.
step one, if you want to speak at NexusCon, is you have to submit an application, which we'll put in the show notes as well, or else you're never going to have an opportunity. Step two is you better be teaching something. That if we haven't made that clear in the last 20 minutes, I don't know how we could. And step three, building owners are still like the top of the hierarchy. If you're there and you're the end user, you're the customer, it's just such validation that's still real, but we're just leaning even further into the teaching aspect of that over case studies and other nonsense.
Love it.
Okay.
Carve out.
Carve
Brad, you're it.
outs. Who
Haha.
okay. It's fine. I have one already thought up. I am my friends always make fun of me because I'm kind of into like obscure sports and competitions because I'm not good at like normal sports and competitions. So the last 2 weeks last week I did the gun barrel challenge, which is at my local ski resort Monarch, and gun barrel is like the steepest run, and it was closing day, and you have to run up the run and then ski or snowboard down. And I got fifth place out of like 70
Wow, that's legit.
people. So I was feeling good. And this coming weekend is the Imperial Challenge, which is kind of the same thing, but at Breckenridge, which is like way bigger. So you start in town and you have to bike 6 miles up to the base of the ski resort, and then you have to skin from the base of the ski resort to the top, which is 13,000 feet. It's like 4,000 vertigade, and then
What shoes do you
ski or
wear?
snowboard back
Like
down.
snow boots?
Snowboard boots. So I've got my snowboard splits into skis, and then I walk up the mountain on my snowboard as skis, and then I get to the top and put the snowboard back together and snowboard
And
down.
it's hard. Like
So-
you could slip.
Well, you're slipping the whole
okay, I have
time.
no
I
idea.
mean, it's snow. It's continuous
It's so
slip.
intense, Brad.
It's funny because snowboard boots are easier to go uphill on than
Correct.
ski boots, but then ski boots are easier to get in your skis and then go back down. So it's like
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
I think that was key for the gun barrel. Is like a lot of snowboarders did well because if you're like, because that one you're just running in your boots. Like it's a lot easier to run in snowboard boots than skis. But anyway, that's my
That's
obscure
so
sports
cool, Brad.
competitions I'm doing.
I love that.
Cool, but Rosie, now it's your turn.
Oh, motherfucker. All right, my turn. So I have so much exciting things happening for me. What is I don't know, guys. It's hard. Okay, let me tell you what I've been into lately. I bought clay, air dry clay. I know it sounds hilarious, like modeling clay, and it is so cool to make things that then get like become a real figurine. And so I've been making these little olives that I'm gonna put on like a dish. I'm making artwork basically. I've been tapping into my creative side, and it's really easy and it's super. Like you could take it anywhere and do it. It's almost a version of coloring books kind of for adults. So that's what I've been into these days.
So that like goes on like a serving
Like
dish
that's what I'm
or
doing, but
something
you
to
can make anything that it's just clay
Nice.
that then air dries basically. So it's really easy. It's like Play-Doh for adults, basically.
Cool.
Random.
I'm reading a book called If Anyone Builds It, Everyone Dies.
Oh.
It's about AI, and it's basically a prediction that if we build superhuman AI or super intelligent AI, then it will kill us as a species. Very dark.
Oh. Especially considering how much we're incorporating AI into our business on a daily basis.
It's an interesting read, like to spend all day, like we're very heavily integrating AI into everything we do, and then to read that before bed, it's not easy to sleep after you read that, because we're being pulled in, almost like we have to be pulled in, but then it's like, well, I don't want to be pulled in so much that it goes all the way to what this book is describing. So
Wow.
it's a weird time we're in.
Do you read that before bed? I hope not.
Sometimes, yeah.
Okay. Got it.
There you have it. Running
it.
Uphill, Clay Olives, and horror AI books. Those are your 3 carve outs. Okay. Thank you everyone for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Bye everyone. Thank you.
Okay, friends, thank you for listening to this episode. As we continue to grow our global community of changemakers, we need your help. For the next couple of months, we're challenging our listeners to share a link to their favorite Nexus episode on LinkedIn with a short post about why you listen. It would really, really help us out. Make sure to tag us in the post so we can see it. Have a good one.